Welcome. Today we're going to be talking about the First Amendment. All right, we're going to start with the first two clauses of the First Amendment, including the Establishment Clause and the Free Exercise Clause. So let's look at the text of the amendment. It says, Congress shall make no law Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof. This is both the Establishment Clause and the Free Exercise Clause. So if you wanted to isolate the two clauses out, the Establishment Clause is Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion. That's the Establishment Clause. And if you want to look at the Free Exercise Clause independently to isolate it, it's Congress shall make no law prohibiting the free exercise thereof. And of course, the thereof refers to religion. So Congress shall make no law prohibiting the free exercise of religion. Those are the two clauses we're going to be looking at today. Okay, they have very different intents, very different goals behind those two clauses. The first one is the Establishment Clause, and the goal of the Establishment Clause is to stop too much entanglement between church and state. So the Establishment Clause, the goal is to stop entanglement. Too much connection between church and state. And the goal of the Free Exercise Clause, I'm going to put the Free Exercise Clause, is to ensure that individuals can freely practice religion. All right, so let's talk about the Fundamental Establishment Clause scenarios that we were looking at in class. The first one is Locke v. Davey, which was where a state set up a scholarship saying that everyone who qualified under their rules, so we'll take the example of everyone who attended a public high school and got a 3.5 GPA or higher was entitled to a $3,000 scholarship to use toward college. Now, in Locke v. Davey, what happened is that when a student wanted to use that money, public money, to study ministry, the state said, nope, you can't have the money. If you were studying architecture or engineering or art history, you could use the money, but you can't use it to study theology. Okay, what happened there is that student claimed that that was a violation of his free exercise rights. So let's take a look at our diagram we've used before. You should know this pretty well by now. In the middle is the enumerated powers as expanded by the implied powers, Article 1, Section 8, Clause 18. Outside that is all powers that can be exercised by government. We know those as the police powers exercised by the states. And outside that is the individual's freedom to pursue his own religious practices. What Davey said in Locke v. Davey is, I should be able to freely practice and study religion as a career. That is simply me exercising my constitutional right, my individual right to pursue my religion. Now, the court said in Locke v. Davey that no, they disagreed with Locke's claim. And here's what the court said. Because the state had established this scholarship, it was up to the state to define it however they wanted. And so the fact that they had set up criteria saying you can study anything except, the state was entitled to create exceptions because it was the one who had created and defined the scholarship. So in Locke v. Davey, the court struck down Davey's claim and said, no, this was not, denying him the scholarship money was not a violation of his free exercise rights. Now, the court also talked about the Establishment Clause in Locke v. Davey, and here's what the court said. The court gave the scenario that if the state had created the scholarship differently, so let's say the state had said, anyone who gets a 3.5 GPA or higher gets the $3,000 scholarship, and they can use it to study theology or to study to be a minister or a priest. Would that have then violated the Establishment Clause? What the court said in Locke v. Davey was, no, it wouldn't have violated the Establishment Clause, and here's the rationale the court gave. If the state government wanted to take your family's tax money and give it to the Catholic Church or the Lutheran Church or any church for that matter, we all know that they could not have done that. That would violate this principle of stopping entanglement between church and state. But what the court said is that when the state gives individuals a choice to use the money where the individual sees fit, that does not involve the state too closely with religion. And the quote we talked about in class was, the link between government funding and religious training is broken by the independent choice exercised by the recipient. So what the court held in Locke v. Davey was that so long as it's not the state government deciding, hey, let's give your parents tax dollars to the Catholic Church, that they can't do. That's a violation of the Establishment Clause. But if instead the state says, we're going to take your parents' tax dollars, your family's tax dollars, and we're going to give them to a recipient of the scholarship, and that recipient can choose where to spend that money. And this recipient happens to choose to give it to a church to pursue devotional theology, that is okay under the Establishment Clause. So again, looking back at the rationale behind the Establishment Clause and the Free Exercise Clause, in Locke v. Davey, we see that the court said it is okay to allow the recipient of a public scholarship to choose him or herself to give that scholarship money to a church school to study devotional theology. That is not a violation of the Establishment Clause. We also learned that if instead the state decides, nope, we don't want our taxpayer money going to churches so the student can't use it for studying religion, that is also okay. That does not violate the recipient's free exercise rights. All right, let's talk about a couple of other cases. In Yoder, we looked at Yoder, which was a free exercise clause case. In Yoder, an Amish family was challenging the truancy laws in Wisconsin. Wisconsin said that you had to go to high school until you turned the age of 16. The Amish did not want to send their kids to beyond middle school. They wanted to keep them home after middle school. Okay, so the question was, did punishing Yoder, and in fact they were imposing a fine on him for every day he missed school, they were fining his family. Did fining Yoder's family for refusing to send their child to high school because of their religious beliefs violate the Yoder's free exercise rights? That's the did X violate Y formulation for the Yoder case. And what the court found is this. The court found that it found for the Yoders and decided that it was within their free exercise rights, the rights of the individual to choose how to practice their religion, it was within the Yoder family's rights to keep their student home after middle school, and that the state could not force them to go. All right, in the next one, we'll talk about Barnett, and we'll talk about, wrap up the free exercise and establishment clauses.